to keep that bridge lit? Can somebody answer that?
Sure. Yes, Gary.
Well, I'm going from flow control to bridge lights here today, but I'll walk down memory lane a little bit. If you recall this project, and Bob, you were right, it was a Leadership Muscatine project. And the city got really involved in this project. The city council got involved in the project, and you might remember that it became an endorsed project by the city council at Leadership Muscatine's request, because that allowed us to have by-state regional planning write a grant for this project. And by-state granted $100,000 on this project. So the project was a $350,000 project. So by-state granted the $100,000, and then we were, we're only $250,000 short. And that project took a long time to get done, but Musco Sports Lighting stepped up with a $250,000 donation to allow that project to occur, which became, as we all know, a very proud point in time for us in the community to have that lit bridge. It's unfortunate that Musco didn't make those lights, okay? Yeah. Because if Musco made the lights, our problem would have been a much easier one. But they helped us, choose a vendor, and it's unfortunate the vendor went under. I guess I would like to ask the city council to consider that $40,000. What it did spur some discussion among a number of us in the community is thinking about, okay, we've done some really wonderful Leadership Muscatine projects in the community. If you think about the Bridge Tribute project, if you think about some work that's been done along the trails and the signage on the trails, if you think Leadership Muscatine was involved in helping with the raising dollars as part of the groups to redo the pavilion out at the Weed Park. So we've had a lot of great projects in Leadership Muscatine, plus it's developing future leaders. And some of you have been Leadership Muscatine graduates, and if I recall, Bob, that's one of the things that kind of got you to run for city council. Okay, so I know you're alumnus of the project. I think one of and what we're going to encourage some of the Leadership Muscatine groups to do, and when they're looking for a project for going forward, that one of them be that we start to establish an endowment fund for maintenance costs for Leadership Muscatine projects. I think that could be another meaningful one. So, because any other project that's been done over the years, too, could have some ongoing maintenance costs, whatever. But we're in a bit of a dilemma because we have this wonderful asset that's being underutilized now. Muscatine Power and Water graciously agreed to put some additional dollars in. They've already done a lot. Musco's done, an awful lot here. If you look at what they've already gone in and done some additional engineering work, and it's really kind of a timing issue to be able to get it done and get it up going. There's probably a lesson to be learned here, and how how do we address it going forward? If we fail to have the bridge lit, there is some concern that because Bi-State was able to run the grant for federal dollars, you know, if we don't keep the bridge lit, do we have any liability as far as refunding $100,000 to some kind of federal grant, which is also not a discussion that we want to ever get into as well. So it's unfortunate. I don't think any of us had any dream that we would have a problem with the lights. I'm not a light expert, although I have learned more about bridge lights than I probably ever want to know about bridge lights. And Jim can probably address more. It does look like there may have been I think from my perspective, defer to Jim, that there was a defect in the design of the light, which allowed for the wicking and moisture to go in there, which has caused the burning out problem. That seems to be part of the problem, and since they're out of business, you know, we really don't have a recourse to go back to them. The Musco folks have also helped evaluate light, and Stanley Consultant folks looked at what could be done. They see what the problem is. How can we avoid that and find a better supplier of a light product? So I know a lot of people have been volunteers, and a lot of people have worked, a lot of people put time in. It's unfortunate we're in a kind of an odd position, but I would like to think that maybe we can lay the groundwork for coming up with a future longer-term solution. Mm-hmm. So, thanks.
Thanks, Gary. Now, Council, is there anyone else who wishes to comment? Jerry?
Greg, did you say the city contributed $10,000 towards the project originally?
To date, just over $10,000.
Okay. My thinking is that this was a project, a really good idea that Leadership Muscatine followed up on and was able to raise all that funding. But I think we have perhaps a sufficient investment already in the 10,000. I'm not particularly in favor of adding the 40,000. Could this be turned back to Leadership Muscatine to seek more funding? That's a possibility.
It's certainly a possibility, but it's not going to get the bridge up and running in the short term by any means. Outside funding, whether that be, I can't think of any grants off the top of my head, but so you're looking at local donations. So it's always a possibility. I guess our recommendation was that we look at that for the long term as a mechanism to pay for the ongoing upkeep or costs associated with the bridge lighting project or other Leadership Muscatine projects.
That's it, Jerry? Yes. Anyone else, Council? Yes, Diane.
Mayor, thank you. Having read all the memos and the information attached, City of Muscatine, keep in mind, City only have put in $10,000. Musco contributed $350,000 to this project originally. 250, excuse me, because the whole project was 350, correct? And we got 100 from the Bi-State. In that percentage that's minimal that the city has already invested in the project that is an economic development and a tourism. Yeah, I know you're shaking your head, Mark, but it is a target for our community. We're the only city on the river, the mighty Mississippi, right here, that have the variety of colored lights that can be changed according to the season or the event that's happening on the Mississippi. And we are always talking about bringing more tourism to our riverfront, and that is a marketing that is an asset to the community. If the city puts $40,000, MPW is already going to donate another 20. And you know, I'm curious as to how much we do need to fund, as Gary said, something for maintenance, to maintain. So something needs to be working in that condition, so in that direction. So 60K would, or 60,000 would actually just fix what we have now. Is that correct?
That's
with
correct.
No slush fund.
That's correct, but don't forget, MPW is still responsible for the annual maintenance and upkeep.
Oh,
and
then, yes.
And then we'll still be looking long-term at how we can't provide additional funding.
Yeah. And yeah, okay. Yeah, more information is good, but I can't see why this wouldn't be supported by the community of Muscatine.
Just to comment on the maintenance, ongoing maintenance, that is a condition that Muscatine Power and Water will continue. They have agreed to that, and they will continue to do that. And the $20,000 that they're putting forward is what they will annually budget for maintenance for the lights. So that maintenance cost will not be borne by at least this body of the city anyway.
I didn't understand that from the memos. Thank you.
That $20,000 is what they presently budget. Obviously, they'd like to, we'd like to get the maintenance down, as low as possible going forward.
Certainly.
Obviously.
It's an asset to our community. I definitely am in favor of spending the $40,000 for the city and getting it up to speed.
Well, tonight's your opportunity to ask questions for the folks that are here. We'll be taking action at our next council meeting. Obviously, this is an in-depth session, so if there's any...
Before you do, is there anyone else? Bill, do you have anything to
Just wanted to comment that I know that when we started this, they were going to use LED lighting, which at the time LEDs should last a long, long time. Well, if they're not manufactured properly, that's the big part of it. They go out. If we had something go seriously wrong with one of the other projects that we had outside funding for, i.e. the riverfront, for instance, we have a responsibility, in my opinion, to go fix that. In this situation, we've got $250,000 from Musco originally. I don't know how much time and money they've put into it since. Stanley's put in their contribution. I mean, you can only go back to the community, the businesses, and pump them for money so often. And when it's $40,000 for a project like this one, come on, we just need to do it. This is ridiculous. I agree with Osama and Diane that the TIF monies are used for infrastructure. know it's not sewer. It's not, you know, other city infrastructure like streets, but it's something that's very valuable, I think, to the community. So
It's an
something
asset.
we need to do. That's
Very good. Anyone else?
Well, it was
Gary?
my understanding this was a community project, which does not necessarily have to involve the city taking a share of the cost, which was a minor share. I agree with that, but this is an additional amount. And
But Jerry, as a city councilman, you have the ownership of that.
I do.
Yep.
We all do.
You all do
We
is
have the ownership of our community.
I tell you, another point, which is a touchy one, how much something like this attracts outside visitors is a question I have. I know people that come here to visit relatives are taken down to see the bridge, of course, and it is a special thing that Muscatine has. But as a tourist attraction, I'm not sure that that's the description.
Well, the easiest argument is in infrastructure one, and TIF is this infrastructure, this improvement, this asset is an eligible, or excuse me, TIF is an eligible method to pay for improvements or repairs to a city infrastructure. So that's the easiest argument to make beyond economic development and tourism. This is city infrastructure, and city funds are eligible to be used, or TIF funds are eligible to be used on this project.
But Greg, aren't TIF funds tax dollars?
Absolutely.
All of the money we manage the city with is tax dollars.
Yeah.
All
We're-
the
We're
decisions we
talking
make.
about this project.
Well, and I want to clarify my position right now. I mean, if we, the city, have another funding source outside of TIF for this $40,000, I'm open to that. But I feel that TIF funding, that TIF money, should not be used for anything that does not have job creation or economic development, something that's going to increase property values or tax revenues to the city long term. I don't think we should be using it for this type of project. I just do not buy the argument that the colored lights are driving tourism in the Muscatine. Certainly not with any significant impact. I would say at budget session this year, I requested $4,000, 10% of this amount, so that we could buy 2 booths and go to the Iowa State Fair again, and basically buy that so our chamber could take us to the state fair. We didn't have $4,000. So how we can say we have 10 times that amount for something like this that doesn't have near the impact potential of going to Des Moines and hitting hundreds of thousands of in-state tourists. I can't support that. Now, if we have another method of funding this, I'm open to it.
I would have to say that the state fair is not an infrastructure that we have to deal with. This is something that's installed in Muscatine with the blessing, if you want to call it that, of the city council. Therefore, it needs to be covered.
It's not necessary infrastructure.
It is now,
I don't buy that either.
especially after you have a group of people and businesses in this community put so much time and effort into putting it together. At this point, they've got it to where all that they need the lights, and obviously for a business that's already expended probably at least $300,000 to expect them to kick in another 40, I think that's going above and beyond. So I just think whether it's TIF dollars or it is another funding source throughout the city, I do not want a bond for it. But the TIF dollars are there for one time. The best situation is use TIF dollars for one-time shots to improve something, to work on the community in one way, shape, or form or another. And this is the best opportunity we have at this point.
I agree. I think your issue with the